There's a phenomenon that occurs in many creative persons. I have called it project jumping, project hopping. I have recently heard it referred to as Project Procrastination, and I must say I do prefer this title. I do not prefer this phenomenon. I experience it far more often than I would like.
Here we see a sewist in her natural habitat, contentedly cutting and creating, until all at once she is struck with a dissatisfied feeling. Hunger. She realizes she hungers for a procrastination project. Try as she might to ignore the hunger and continue with her current project, she cannot. For every cut, every stitch, every effort is like moving through mud. The procrastination project hunger must be sated.
So you see, I was making a dress out of this fabric in the form of thrifted bedsheets, and then I realized I didn't want the dress to be made of this fabric, I wanted it to be made of this fabric, so I switched fabrics, but I couldn't rid myself of the desire to make something with this fabric, and then a thought entered my little brain. Oops. I have been wanting to make some new window shades for a while now. I made these maybe 8 years ago. However, if you've been following along with me, you may recall my contentious relationship with time. It may have been 8 years. It may have been longer. It may have been less. Who knows, really? Anyway, this is my little living corner with 3 glorious windows and a little less than glorious window shades. And also this window on the other side of the room, which features in a lot of my videos. Though they are doing an excellent job serving their purpose, they are fading on the back a little bit, and the gray color is fairly dark and can make the room feel just a little bit closed in. So the idea came to me. What would this fabric look like on the windows? I hung a sheet over a tension rod just to see. I was certain it wouldn't look good, but it actually looked okay. That's my, oh wow, it actually looks okay face. And so it was decided. This fabric would become my new window shades.
So what I have to do is cut out a piece that's going to fit inside this exact rectangle inside here. And then I have to cut another piece of fabric, which is the printed fabric, which is a little bit bigger, so that I can turn the edges under on all the sides, and extra here so that it goes over the tension rod. I will have to cut out a few more than just 2 pieces though, because I want this fabric to really pop, be really bright, so I'm going to put white behind it. I'm going to take a white bed sheet and just back it. So I'm going to use this bed sheet for the back, this bed sheet for the front, and then the back is another bed sheet. But even with those 3 layers, that's not enough for the window, because these are meant to be blackout shades. Not gonna do it. So I need a darker color to go in between them all in order to not waste fabric. I'm just gonna put these shades in between the fabrics, because that will make it a blackout curtain. Okay, so let's do this.
I proceeded to cut quite a few rectangles out of the white bed sheets. I had 4 windows to cover, but I needed 8 white rectangles, 4 to go underneath the print fabric, and then 4 to go on the back of the gray shades. Then I was able to cut out the print fabric, 4 rectangles in total. I layered the white with the print and stitched all along the edges, making it one piece, and then I took the other white rectangle and placed it on top of the gray shade and stitched it all around those edges, making those one piece. Then it was just a matter of wrapping up that shade. Essentially, I layered it on top of the print fabric and then just gift wrapped it, making the corners nice and neat. Fortunately, this was wrapping with fabric and not with wrapping paper.
I am dreadful at wrapping with wrapping paper.
And that's essentially what the construction for this window shade is. You take a piece of fabric the size of your window, and then a piece of fabric a little bit bigger than that, fold it around the first piece, making sure you have an extra amount at the top edge to fold over for the tension rod to go through, and top stitch it all together. I just made it a little more complicated because I wanted to incorporate my old shades, but if you want to make these yourself, it can be less complicated. I'm just really good at complicating things. Not to brag, but I am. I had just a couple more steps to go. I finished all of the edges with a straight stitch, being very careful, inserted a brand new needle, and moved with caution because this was going through a lot of layers. Then it was time for the final step, which was just turning that top edge over for the tension rod to go through. And I was able to hang up my first brand new shade to see how it looked.
Okay. Now just 3 more to go.
I really dislike making the same thing more than once. I tend to get bored and agitated at the time it takes, but I just kept telling myself 1 step at a time, just 1 step at a time, and I'll get these shades made.
Fun fact about me, I cannot snap my fingers. And that was very discouraging to me as a child because I knew that I couldn't even try to see if the Mary Poppins method of cleaning your room actually worked because I couldn't snap my fingers. Very discouraging. But then I grew up and I discovered video editing, which is not the same thing. Not the same thing at all, because I still have to go through the work of putting these together, which is going to take me several hours. But because I'm filming it, I'll go back through and edit it, and then it will seem like it took me mere seconds. So if I can just block from my memory the time it took me to make these things in real life, and just pretend like, yep, I put those together in a few seconds, then I have the Mary Poppins magic. And I don't need to be able to snap my fingers. So there. I can't snap my fingers, but I can edit videos. So I'm basically a witch. Yeah. Basically.
The time had come to address something not for the window shades, but window shade related. I needed to make some curtain tiebacks because these hair ties were not giving. I did originally have some that were matching. I made them out of this fabric and they looked a little bit like hair ties, but they lost their elasticity. I don't even know where those are, but I've been using these hair ties and I'm just realizing now that's why I couldn't find any hair ties for my hair the other day. Because they're all here. Let me see if I can find some fabric that kind of matches this. We'll see. To my surprise, I did end up finding some fabric that matched super well in my collection of large fabric scraps. I simply cut a bunch of little rectangles out of said fabric and also some sturdy interfacing, pressed that on, stitched pieces right sides together, turned them out, and closed up the edges, making some finished rectangles, and then I just added Velcro to the ends, making what looked very much like a napkin ring that could open and close, and I could maneuver the curtain to be off to the side or centered. Options. And then I made 7 more. And back to the shades. To hold up my shades, I originally made some rectangular pieces with snaps on the end and pulled them up like so. Maybe not ideal, it does take a bit of work to get them up there, but it's simple and low cost and is efficient at holding them up. A much simpler method of doing this would of course be ties, but I don't really love that look. So again, I cut out some rectangles. There was a lot of cutting of rectangular pieces in this project, and a lot of repetition. Almost exactly the same thing as the curtain tiebacks, right sides together and turned it right sides out, finished the edges, and all 8 of them were finished except for closures. Instead of Velcro though, it was to be snaps because it needed to be a much more secure hold because of the weight of the shades. Unfortunately, the snaps had to be sewn on by hand, all 16 of them. But I persevered and was so glad to have my window shades finished and was getting ready to breathe a sigh of contentment at the completedness. And then I realized something. I realized that I had made the pieces too small. I didn't take into account that the shade was going to be much bulkier than the original ones because there was so much more fabric. Actually, I did take it into account, but then promptly forgot about it and made the pieces the same size as the originals. Yay. After a moment of self-pity, I remedied the issue by making some extenders for each piece and then moved a snap down on each one. Not ideal, but definitely quicker and less wasteful than remaking each piece. And the window shades were finally complete. I didn't originally think of this fabric for window shades because it wasn't what I was envisioning. My perfect fabric would be more of a tapestry look with more vines and trees than florals, but my perfect fabric isn't achievable at this time, and I'm totally fine with that, actually very pleased with how it turned out. And all for $8. The white bed sheets were $2 a piece, and the floral bed sheet set was $4. I did use interfacing snaps and Velcro, so I should bump it up to $9, but also I only ended up using one of the floral bed sheets, so I guess it's more like $7. The original gray shades cost me $6, so I could include that in the total, but I wasn't going to because they had served me for maybe 8 years, but if I did, the total would come out to $13. I am super grateful that I could incorporate them. I didn't have to throw them out, and they are now neatly nestled in with the new shades, which make the room feel so much brighter. They block the light from that cursed lamp right outside the windows. I am rather pleased with my shades. And with that pesky procrastination project out of the way, I return to my original project full of zesty motivation to accomplish. But then I remembered that there was a good deal of fabric left over, and so I felt obligated to do the practical thing. Who knows when you might need to blend in with the surroundings? It's a safety issue. And then I was able to return to my original project.
I really need a new pajama set. Yeah.